The lost city that vanished without a trace. For as long as human beings have built civilizations, we've also told stories of those civilizations falling. Some faded slowly, undone by war, famine, or natural disasters. Others left ruins that archaeologists can study and interpret. But among the strangest mysteries are those cities that did not just decline, but vanished, disappeared without leaving a clear trace behind. Imagine an entire city, once bustling with life. Markets filled with the chatter of merchants, homes echoing with laughter, temples and monuments rising proudly toward the heavens, suddenly gone. No definitive ruins, no clear explanation, just whispers of existence in myth, scattered artifacts, or unexplained foundations buried in the earth. These lost cities tease us with glimpses of greatness and then fade into obscurity, leaving only one question. What really happened here? Human history is full of names that evoke mystery and wonder. Atlantis, the legendary city described by Plato, supposedly sank beneath the waves. The Mayan city of Ubar, called the Atlantis of the Sands, is said to have thrived in the Arabian desert before vanishing. Machu Picchu in Peru, hidden high in the Andes, was lost to the modern world for centuries until rediscovered in 1911. And then there are lesser-known cities, Nan Madol in Micronesia, Cahokia in North America, or Thonis Heracleion off the coast of Egypt, that leave behind faint traces of incredible societies erased by time. But the one thing that binds them all together is a sense of the impossible. How can something so large, so alive, and so essential simply vanish? When we talk about the lost city that vanished without a trace, we are diving into one of the deepest mysteries of human civilization. It's not just a story about stone and mortar. It's about people. It is about the fragility of culture and how even the most powerful societies can be wiped away, leaving only a shadow in history's memory. And yet, part of what makes these lost cities so captivating is the gap between legend and archaeology. Ancient myths and modern discoveries sometimes align, but often they clash. Where mythology speaks of divine punishment, floods, or magical disappearance, science looks for tectonic shifts, climate collapse, or wars that leave behind ruins. Still, there are cases where the physical evidence is so elusive that even the best explanations feel incomplete. The disappearance of these cities forces us to reflect on our own world today. We live in skyscrapers, connected by satellites, and powered by technology our ancestors couldn't imagine. But will our cities one day meet the same fate? Will future generations wonder how we vanished, the way we now wonder about them? In this journey, we will unravel the enigma of the lost city that vanished without a trace. We'll step into the myths that surround it, explore the archaeological puzzles that baffle scientists, and confront the possibility that some chapters of human history may never be fully recovered. This is not just a story of ruins, it is a story of silence. Atlantis, the legend that started it all. When people think of a city that disappeared, one name comes to mind almost instantly: Atlantis. More than just a myth, Atlantis has become a symbol of human curiosity and the ultimate riddle of history. The earliest account comes from the Greek philosopher Plato, who described it in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias around 360 BCE. He wrote of a powerful island civilization that existed 9,000 years before his time, a place of immense wealth, magnificent palaces, and advanced knowledge. According to Plato, Atlantis was larger than Libya and Asia combined, ruled by mighty kings descended from the god Poseidon. It was a society of engineers, builders, and warriors whose navy could command the seas. But just as Atlantis reached the height of its power, it was undone. The story tells of hubris, of a people who became greedy and corrupt. As punishment, the gods struck Atlantis with earthquakes and floods, and within a single day and night, the mighty city sank beneath the waves, never to be seen again. For centuries, people debated whether Plato's story was a fable, an allegory meant to teach about pride and downfall, or a record of a real civilization erased by nature. Some scholars argue it was inspired by the eruption of Thera, modern Santorini, a volcanic disaster that devastated the Minoan civilization around 1600 BCE. Others believe Atlantis could be connected to lost cities off the coasts of Spain, Morocco, or even the Caribbean. Still, no definitive proof has ever surfaced. What makes Atlantis so enduring is not just the possibility that it existed, but the sheer mystery of its vanishing. If such a grand city once ruled the seas, how could it disappear so completely that only Plato's words remain? Could an entire civilization really leave no trace? This question haunts every search for lost cities. Even when ruins are uncovered, pillars rising from the seabed or strange formations under the sand, the leap from ruin to city requires evidence. Atlantis, despite its powerful grip on imagination, remains frustratingly elusive. But Atlantis is not alone. Around the world, similar stories echo the theme of sudden disappearance. Flood myths appear in Mesopotamia, India, Mesoamerica, and Polynesia, suggesting ancient people may have witnessed catastrophic events where whole communities were swallowed by rising waters. Could Atlantis be one of many such cities, remembered in legend while its stones lie buried under the ocean floor? The legend of Atlantis may never be solved, but it sparked something far greater. A fascination with lost civilizations that drives archaeologists, explorers, and dreamers even today. It showed us that cities can rise to unimaginable greatness and fall so completely that they vanish from the record. And if Atlantis captured the imagination of the Western world, other lost cities would remind us that disappearance was not unique to myth. It was something that happened again and again, across continents, in places we never expected. 3. Ubar, the Atlantis of the sands. Far from the ocean myths of Atlantis lies another vanished city, whispered about in the scorching heat of the Arabian desert. Known as Ubar, or sometimes Iram of the Pillars, it is described in the Quran and in Bedouin legend as a grand city that thrived in the empty quarter, one of the harshest deserts on earth. It was said to be a hub of trade, wealth, and opulence, a glittering oasis in the endless dunes. And then, like Atlantis, it was gone. The Quran refers to the people of Ad, a mighty tribe who lived in a city with lofty pillars, the like of which had never been created. According to the story, they grew arrogant, turning away from God. As punishment, a fierce storm buried them beneath the sands. For centuries, travelers and poets spoke of this fabled place, a city swallowed whole by the desert's wrath. Western explorers began chasing the legend in the 19th and 20th centuries, dubbing it the Atlantis of the Sands. Adventurers ventured into the empty quarter, facing extreme heat and endless dunes, only to return empty-handed. Many dismissed Ubar as pure myth. But in the 1990s, something remarkable happened. Using satellite imagery, researchers discovered traces of ancient caravan routes hidden beneath the sand. These tracks all converged at a single point, an archaeological site in Oman, known as Shisar. Excavations revealed the remains of a fortress and evidence of collapsed underground chambers. The theory emerged that Ubar had been built on top of a limestone cavern, and when the cavern roof gave way, much of the city collapsed and was consumed by sand. Was this the legendary Ubar? Some archaeologists believe the discovery validates centuries of lore, proving that a once thriving trade city in Arabia did indeed vanish without a trace. Others argue that Shisar was not a vast city, but merely a trading outpost, and that the myth of Ubar grew larger than reality. Still, the fact remains, something existed in that desert, something important enough to inspire myth, scripture, and centuries of oral tradition. If Shisar was Ubar, it stands as a powerful reminder that even cities in the heart of a desert, connected by wealth and trade, can disappear so completely that only satellites could rediscover them. The story of Ubar shows how fragile human achievement can be. A city that once thrived on the frankincense trade, a commodity as valuable as gold in the ancient world, was undone not by conquest or fire, but by the shifting earth beneath its foundations and the relentless advance of sand. Ubar may not have been Atlantis in scale, but its vanishing was no less complete. Where once there were pillars and towers, now there is silence. And just like Atlantis, it reminds us that the line between myth and reality is often blurred. 4. Nan Madol, the city on the sea. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, scattered across more than 90 small islets off the coast of Pohnpei in Micronesia, lies one of the strangest cities ever built, Nan Madol. Sometimes called the Venice of the Pacific, this ancient city rose directly out of the ocean, constructed atop a lagoon with a network of canals that connected its districts. But the real mystery is not just how it was built, it is how such a remarkable city could simply vanish from history. Nan Madol was the ceremonial and political center of the Sodelur dynasty, which ruled the island for centuries. Its construction began around the 8th or 9th century, with its peak between the 12th and 17th centuries. Massive basalt columns, some weighing up to 50 tons, were stacked like giant logs to form walls, temples, and palaces. Transporting and assembling these stones without modern tools remains one of the great enigmas of the ancient world. Legends say the city was founded by twin sorcerers who used magical powers to levitate the stones into place. While archaeologists naturally search for more practical explanations, the scale of the work still boggles the mind. How could an island population with limited resources construct such a complex city in the middle of the ocean? Nan Madol was more than an engineering marvel. It was a city designed with strict order. Priests, nobles, and rulers lived within its walls, while commoners were forbidden. It was a city of ritual and power, and its isolation gave it an otherworldly aura. But at some point Nan Madol was abandoned. The reasons remain unclear. Oral traditions tell of tyranny under the Sodelur rulers, who demanded impossible tributes until rebellion or invasion toppled their reign. Others suggest the city's reliance on ocean resources made it vulnerable to environmental change, or that its rulers lost control of the population. By the time Europeans arrived in the 16th century, Nan Madol was already in ruins, a ghostly city on the sea. Today, its black stone walls still rise from the water, shrouded in mangroves and silence. Divers explore its submerged foundations, while locals speak of spirits haunting the site. Nan Madol is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but even with archaeology and modern science, its secrets are far from fully revealed. What makes Nan Madol so compelling in the story of vanished cities is not just its physical abandonment, but how completely it disappeared from global memory. Unlike Rome or Athens, whose ruins anchor them in history, Nan Madol slipped away into obscurity until explorers stumbled across its ruins centuries later. A city built on water, that seemed to defy nature itself, eventually surrendered to time. And once again we are left with the same haunting question. How does a place of such power and wonder simply fade away? 4. Why cities vanish. From the oceans of Atlantis to the deserts of Ubar, from the watery ruins of Nan Madol to countless other mysteries, the pattern is clear. Cities rise, flourish, and sometimes vanish. But why? How can entire civilizations disappear so completely that centuries later, we are left only with myths, fragments, or unexplained ruins? One reason is nature's power. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and floods have erased whole cities in a matter of hours. Pompeii, though preserved in ash, was destroyed overnight by Mount Vesuvius. The eruption of Thera shattered the Minoan world and may have birthed the Atlantis legend. Rising seas swallowed coastal settlements, just as shifting sands buried Ubar. Nature does not care for human ambition. It reclaims without warning. Another reason is environmental collapse. Civilizations often overuse their land and water, leading to famine and migration. The Mayans, for example, abandoned once great cities during periods of intense drought. If resources fail, even the strongest city can quickly unravel, leaving behind empty temples and palaces. There is also human conflict. Wars, invasions, and rebellion toppled countless urban centers. Sometimes conquerors built over old ruins, erasing their memory. Other times, cities were so thoroughly destroyed that little evidence remained. History is written by the victors, but ruins, or the absence of them, tell their own silent story. Yet perhaps the most haunting reason is forgetting. Time itself erodes memory. Without records, without stories, without people to remember, even great cities fade from human knowledge. Machu Picchu lay hidden in the Andes for centuries, known only to locals until outsiders rediscovered it. How many more lost cities still sleep beneath jungles, deserts, and oceans waiting to be uncovered? What makes these vanishings so mysterious is not just the physical disappearance, but the loss of identity. A city is more than stone and mortar. It is culture, language, and people. When it disappears, so too does its story. That silence, more than any ruin, is what fascinates us today. And maybe that is why legends endure. Atlantis, Ubar, Nan Madol. They captivate us because they represent the fragility of human achievement. No matter how mighty, no city is immune to time. Even our great metropolises today, glowing with steel and glass, could one day be dust, leaving future generations to wonder what happened to us. So when we speak of the lost city that vanished without a trace, we are not only telling the story of ancient ruins, we are confronting a timeless truth. Civilizations rise, but they can also fall, sometimes so completely that only whispers remain. And perhaps, in seeking these cities, in digging through sand, stone, and sea, we are really searching for ourselves, for proof that our stories too will not vanish without a trace.